Welcome back. A new acquisition alert from the General Services Administration includes guidance for contracting officers for self-assessments from contractors. GSA Senior Procurement Executive Jeff Kosis says the self-assessments can go into the contractor performance assessment system. Jim Williams is partner at Schambach Williams Consulting, former acting administrator and deputy administrator of GSA. Jim, welcome. It's good to see you, my friend. What does this mean? As I read this memo from Jeff, sounds like a big deal, and I have to say I'm not expert enough to understand exactly why.
Well, it is a big deal. The current CPARS, past performance reporting system, is a system that is really kind of broken right now. And also Federal Procurement Policy, Jeff Kosis, Soraya Korea, other leaders in procurement are trying to fix it. This is a great move by Jeff Kosis. And one of the reasons why it's broken is because all the scores are tending towards everybody gets an average score. So there's really no differentiation. And the contractors are pretty unhappy, as we found out, that they don't feel like they're being treated fairly. And I think Jeff's move to encourage and allow for self-assessments is going to put more balance back in the system so that contractors who do well are recognized by those contracting officers for their good work.
Is there a risk that a contractor might say they thought they did well, even if objectively someone else would determine they didn't do well?
Well, I think that is a risk. But again, as Jeff points out in his memo, this is a lot like employee performance appraisals, where it's really the self-assessment is input, where there is a big gap between what the government thinks and what the contractor thinks. He's also saying this is a good avenue for discussion. I mean, this shouldn't have ended with the CPARS, but there should be discussions all along. And he's saying let's encourage those discussions so that we don't have this giant gap in our understanding about how well things are going.
Is this something that companies are doing now anyway for their own internal purposes, or maybe should be doing for their own internal purposes? Or is this adding something on to the work that companies are doing as a part of their contracts?
Well, where the government contracting agency allows this, many contractors are taking advantage of this. I think there is a much greater need to pay a lot more attention to CPARS, whether you're large or small. If you're a small company, people who are doing M&A are saying as part of their valuation, they're starting to look at CPARS. In fact, IAC has an acquisition excellence session coming up on just that subject. But also they're using CPARS more and more in source selection decisions. We want to see them used more and more at the task order level and used as a primary measure of a contractor's performance. That is coming. OFPP is looking hard at this issue, and I think much more attention is coming. It's a great system because it gives the voice of the customer, CPARS, in something like TripAdvisor or Yelp. So the government just needs to reform it.
Yeah, and what does that look like in your view? What does the successful realization of that vision look like in your mind, Jim?
I think it's where it is a motivator to improve contractor performance. It becomes a real significant factor in source selection decisions, whether you're at the task order level or whether you're at the prime contract level. I think it's also, as the Biden administration is looking to include other things to leverage the $580 billion, whether it's climate change or addressing racial inequities, CPARS, if that's going to be included in federal contracts, this is a great way to measure achievement of those goals. So we're looking for a system that truly is accurate, is timely, provides good information, and really is a motivator for better contract performance, better use of taxpayer dollars.
So you said at the beginning of this conversation, the criticism from the vendor community is that everybody looks average. Put yourself in the seat of that 1102 and you sit down, you go through all this information, and everybody looks excellent or exceptional or whatever the best superlative is. How do you look at that with a critical eye and determine who's really the best performer in a particular area?
Well, I've always believed if truly everybody is excellent, everybody should get an excellent rating. But on a 1 to 5 rating, where 5 is the highest, what we're really seeing is majority of ratings go to a 3. And the reason why, if you give less than a 3 or more than a 3, it requires more work. So in a way, these overburdened contracting officers are kind of taking the easy way out. And I don't blame them in a way, but that's unfair to the contractors. So I think we do want it to be a differentiator of performance. So if a contractor really is performing at a 5 level, give them a 5. They really are performing at an average level, give them a 3.
I just wonder if we get to a point where the CO ratings are all 3s and the vendor ratings are all 5, if we've really accomplished anything.
Well, I think, again, this should spur, as Jeff is really pointing out, more dialogue. And we believe that this ought to start, as Jeff says, with the kickoff. There ought to be a common understanding of how the contractor's performance is going to be measured. And if you're doing it as much quantitative, some will be qualitative. But if you're really communicating, then it's like an employee performance assessment. There really shouldn't be that much surprises at the end.
30 seconds left, Jim. What will you watch as this rolls out?
Really watching the Biden administration. Do they really adopt CPARS, continue to do the good work that Jeff Kosis is leading to reform CPARS, to really make it a great tool, to possibly use it at the task order level more, use it to measure those new socioeconomic goals that may enter in procurement, and make sure we can do things to lessen the burden, but make sure we continue the voice of the customer, but make sure that the contractors feel that it is balanced, fair, and accurate.
Jim Williams, thanks very much as always. Appreciate it.
Great to see you, Francis.